You may have heard how posture can affect your mental health. Today, I want to explain a little bit more about the physiology behind that. So, when we think of what bad posture is, we think we're on our phones, we're on our laptops, we're leaned forward, we've got this forward neck and shoulder position. What that does is it puts pressure on the vagus nerve. If you don't know much about the vagus nerve, I'm going to have videos about that in the future. But for today, what you need to know is the vagus nerve connects our brain to our gut, and it has a lot to do with our mental health. It's what causes our anxiety and keeps our nervous system in fight or flight or into a more relaxed state. So we want to keep the vagus nerve happy and working well to keep ourselves regulated. What happens when we have that forward neck position is we actually put pressure on the vagus nerve so it can't work as well as it should. Obviously, this is a problem, especially if you're prone to anxiety. So what we want to do when we're thinking about fixing our posture, especially in how it relates to our vagus nerve, is instead of doing what we kind of think of doing is when we think of posture, we pull our chest up and squeeze our shoulder blades back. This doesn't quite work because it's still ending up putting pressure on stuff because we're not perfectly aligned. What we would like to see when we have good posture is our rib cage stacked nice and flat over top of our hips, whether we're sitting in a chair, standing, whatever. We want these pieces stacked nicely on top of each other, and that will mean that our shoulders and our neck can stack nicely on top of each other as well. So when we're thinking about our torso position, we have two diaphragms. We have the pelvic diaphragm and the thoracic diaphragm. And we want those to be stacked. If you were going to build a building with different floors, you would want them to be stacked nice and flat on top of each other. You wouldn't really want any angles. And that's what we want to do with our body. So start with the pelvic diaphragm. That's kind of where our hips are pointed. And there's kind of two ways these get stacked improperly. We can, a lot of times, again, if we're sitting and we're rounded forward, we're going to do this. And it's going to kind of close them in the front and open our diaphragms in the back. So what's happening here is my torso is rounded forward. That's tipping my diaphragm forward. And my bum's also rounding under. A lot of us sit like this when we're in a chair. And that's tipping the pelvic diaphragm up. So it's on this kind of upward angle. The other way that happens, and a lot of time we see this when we're more standing, is we kind of go the opposite way. We'll have a big sway in our back. Our chest will be kind of turned upwards, and our bum will also be kind of turned outwards or backwards. And that's going to bring it kind of more open in the front and more together in the back. So what we want to do is find a nice neutral position. This is easier done in front of a mirror so you can kind of see the way that it's stacked, because it may not feel super natural at first if you're not used to being in this position. Once we can get these stacked on top of each other, our core can be more engaged. We can usually use our glutes to help kind of put our hips in that position. We'll talk more about glutes in another video and how they relate to our posture. But once we're kind of here and we can be in the stacked flat position, it's much easier for my shoulders to just rest in a neutral point. When I'm rounded over, they're kind of naturally going to go forwards, but when I'm up, they do kind of sit more in where they should be. And this is also what happens with our neck. If I can stack, or if I've got a good base that's stacked on top of each other, my head just needs to sit flat on top of it. This will take a lot of the pressure off of the neck because I'm not out here having to hold the weight of my head up with my neck and shoulder muscles. I can just sit a little bit taller and a little bit more relaxed. This relaxation of the neck muscles will help take some pressure off of the vagus nerve, allowing it to work more regularly. So if you're having pressure like that on the vagus nerve, you may notice symptoms like dizziness. If that's something that pops up with your anxiety, may have something to do with your neck. I also know a lot of anxious people get tight neck muscles from breathing improperly. Believe me, I've been there. I'm still there sometimes. And this can help kind of relax those muscles. So something to look at, especially if you get anxious while you're looking at a desk. One exercise that my clients absolutely love that will help with this upper back posture. All you need is a foam roller. You're going to lie flat. I like to start with it kind of at the bottom of my sports bra. And then we can work on different points of the upper back depending on where you're tight. So from here, I'm going to put my hands behind my head and I'm just going to relax myself back and then come up. Maybe take a breath at the bottom. Maybe tough to take a deep breath in that position if you're not used to being there, and that's okay. And we're gonna do about 10 of those and just let your body relax over the foam roller. You're not pushing yourself down, you're just letting it kind of fall. After you've done 10, you can come up and shake it out, and then you can come back to it and maybe do 3 sets of 10 here, but on different parts of your upper back. So you'll be able to feel where you're tightest. You might not be so bad up high, maybe more down low, or vice versa. If you do this exercise regularly and focus on stacking your diaphragms or the chunks of your torso nice and straight up and down for more of your day, you're going to take a lot of pressure off your vagus nerve, a lot of pressure off of your neck and shoulder muscles, and you'll just feel much better on the daily for it. Thanks for watching, and if you're interested in more physiology or exercise videos, be sure to follow my channel, Jamie from the Gym.